What's up, everyone? Today I want to talk about the dangers and scams out there if you decide to travel abroad. Now, generally speaking, it's much, less dangerous than you think. And a lot of travel bloggers out there, their whole mission or one of their big jobs and what they always talk about is how it's not as dangerous as it seems, because mass media and pop culture and news stations extravagandize, that's probably not a word, they put to the forefront the dangers of tourist the dangers of travel to foreign countries, third world countries, and so forth. So if someone gets raped and killed, which does happen and still happens every day, that gets put on the front page of the news and it's sensationalized, and everyone thinks that this happens every day. And so a lot of travel bloggers, and one of the things that a lot of these travel bloggers emphasize is the fact that it's nowhere near as dangerous as it seems. And and if you go to these places, there's actually a lot of nice, friendly people there, and to the locals there, that's their home, that's their hometown, and it's a beautiful place, and they're not trying to be mean, and most people are just trying to live their lives, and it's just their normal home to them. And I think that's true, but I do think that there's also a bit of naivety to the people who are getting into this and researching traveling. And therefore they go out, and then sometimes these things do happen and they get screwed over. So that's really what I want to address. So of course traveling and all this stuff is exciting, and more people are getting into it. And I think it should be and I think it's very fascinating, because most people have all these myths about travel that said travel bloggers debunk, and it really just opens my eyes. Things like how, especially if you go to certain countries in Thailand and so forth, the cost of living is so much lower than that you can get by on like $10 or $20 a day. Now let's get to the main focus of this video, which is the dangers of scams and other problems with traveling. Like it or not, one of the dangers of going to a foreign country is that you don't know the customs there, you don't know the culture there, and small things that could hurt you tremendously you don't know about. For instance, in a lot of the big cities in China, like Shanghai, Beijing, whatever else, there are certain big scams. There are certain groups that operate there are tons of big scams that occur to a lot of the foreign tourists. And there's a lot of one of them is called the whiskey bottle scam. One of them is called the alcohol scam, and there's many different variations. And the whole idea is that they find a male tourist who's on his own or is traveling, and then they get two attractive girls to ask this guy to go to the bar with them. And most guys, having seen such attractive girls, would go to the bar with them, and they would have drinks and they would talk and chat, and then they would order drinks, and the girls would make it seem like, oh, don't worry about it, these drinks are very cheap, it's not a big deal, I'll pay for them. But they never really firmly or explicitly state that they're paying for it. It's just a sort of like wishy-washy type thing. And then after a few hours of ordering drinks, the guy decides to try. They get a huge bill for thousands of dollars because all these drinks were apparently at inflated prices. And then when the guy turns to the girls, they're nowhere in sight, or they'll be there with a few bodyguards behind them who are trying, and they'll say, you got to pay for those drinks.